Hi everyone, you may remember back in February, March this year, the leader of Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabian Prince Mohammed bin Salman, did a whistle-stop tour of countries. He met, you see him meeting with Theresa May and Boris Johnson. Yeah, doesn't she look happy? They look very happy meeting these dictators. Here he is meeting Emmanuel Macron just a week or so later, and here he is in between meeting President Trump. Just looking at that picture, it shows why I said that. And they were ejaculating all over pictures of extremely expensive planes and helicopters and other military equipment. So this happened in February, March this year. And you may remember, not long after this whistle-stop tour, all of a sudden the press came out and they were like, oh, look at Saudi Arabia. Aren't they really advanced now for the Middle East? They're letting women drive now, issuing first driving licenses to women. They didn't actually say in that article that they've arrested 100 of the protesters that actually protested to get women's right to drive in Saudi Arabia. And they've been... Actually, I'm not sure about how many it is, but I know they've been kept for over 100 days since. The people who protested to get... Yeah, it wasn't in the BBC article, that wasn't, strangely enough. But here's the latest. Now, I've seen reports here that this has already happened, that this human rights activist has already been killed. Whether they are true or not, I don't know, because there's no way to verify them. And the only way of verifying is watching the videos, and I don't really fancy watching a video of people's heads getting chopped off to try and verify it. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to do that. It's horrific. But this is from The Guardian. Saudi Arabia seeks death penalty against female human rights activists. 5 human rights activists on trial, including one who would be the first female human rights activist to face capital punishment. Wherever you hear the word capital punishment in this article that I'm going to read to you, think beheaded with the sword, because that's how it will go down. Yes, it really still does happen in Saudi Arabia. It wasn't long ago, it's just a few weeks ago, they actually crucified somebody. They crucified somebody. I mean, the guy was meant to be a murderer that they killed, but still crucified him. A progressive nation, though, apparently, according to our media. The article says this: Saudi Arabian prosecutors are seeking the death sentence for 5 human rights activists, including a woman who is thought to be the first female campaigner in the country facing execution, rights groups have said. al-Ghomgham, a Shia activist arrested with her husband in 2015, will be tried in the country's terrorism tribunal, even though charges she faces relate to a peaceful activism, Human Rights Watch said. So she's peacefully protested and now she's going to get a head cut off. There's no way to sugarcoat this. This is what they're talking about. Quote, any execution is appalling, but seeking the death penalty for activists like al-Ghomgham, who are not even accused of violent behaviour, is monstrous, said Sarah Leah Whitson, Middle East Director at Human Rights Watch. Together with her husband, Musa al-Hashem, and 3 other defendants, Ghomgham faces charges that do not resemble recognisable crimes, HRW said. They include participating in protests, chanting slogans hostile to the regime, attempting to inflame public opinion, and filming protests and publishing on social media. And now those people are going to get their heads cut off. Saudi Shia citizens face systematic discrimination in the majority Sunni nation. I'm glad this is why I'm reading this article, because The Guardian actually do touch on this, which is good of them. Saudi Shia citizens face systematic discrimination in majority Sunni nation, including obstacles to seeking work and education and restrictions on religious practice. Ghomgham had joined and documented mass protests for Shia rights that began in 2011 as the Arab Spring swept across the region. The activist is next due in court on the 28th of October, and the trial will cast a further shadow on Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's efforts to promote himself as a modernising reformer. Yeah, modernising reformer. Get your head chopped off if you protest his regime. They obviously don't call it a regime though. They're a friendly nation. It's a government. We only call regimes, even if they're democratically elected, we only say they're regimes if we don't like them. The kingdom's youngest ruler in the modern era, the 32-year-old power behind the throne, has pledged to rein in religious extremists, diversify a moribund, oil-dependent economy, and liberalise a deeply conservative social order. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen in super quick time. He has rolled back some restrictions on women, including a long-standing ban on female drivers, launched economic reforms, allowed cinemas to open for the first time in decades, and imprisoned some of the most powerful royal relatives in an anti-corruption drive. But social and economic transformation have gone hand in hand with a tightening of political controls, as the Crown Prince had made clear he wants a new Saudi Arabia to remain absolute monarchy, shaped only by him. Dictatorship, theist dictatorship, in other words, that we are happily not just okay with, but seemingly supporting. We're the ones selling them all these millions and billions of dollars of weapons that they're dropping on the heads of the poorest nation in the Middle East, Yemen. Ahead of lifting the ban on female drivers, authorities arrested more than a dozen of the activists who had campaigned for the very change that he was bringing in. Several are now approaching 100 days in jail without legal representation and branded traitors by social media. Well done, The Guardian, for pointing that out. Well done. If the Crown Prince, quote, if the Crown Prince is truly serious about reform, he should immediately step in to assure that no activist is unjustly detained for his or her human rights work, said HRW's Whitson. The campaign to muzzle critics has not just been domestic. Saudi Arabia dramatically cut all ties with Canada recently after the country's foreign minister tweeted a call for the release of 2 jailed activists. The Canadian ambassador was expelled, Saudi scholarship students told to leave Canada, and the new trade and investment suspended. Other countries, including Germany and Sweden, have also come under pressure for censuring Riyadh. Women have been executed before in Saudi Arabia, which has one of the world's highest rates of execution. Suspects of convicted terrorism, homicide, rape, armed robbery, and drug trafficking face the death penalty, and now obviously human rights activists. But Ghomgham is the first woman to possibly face execution for activism, and other campaigners fear it could set a dangerous precedent. She will be tried in the specialised criminal court set up in 2008 for terrorism cases. The kingdom has previously executed Shia activists following trials at the same court that Amnesty International described as grossly unfair. The UN has also previously warned that Saudi Arabia was abusing anti-terror laws and institutions to crack down on dissent. And Saudi Arabia is on the Human Rights Council. Just shows you how useless the UN is. Quote, I am concerned about the unacceptably broad definition of terrorism and the use of Saudi Arabia's 2014 counter-terrorism law and other national security provisions against human rights defenders, writers, bloggers, journalists and other peaceful critics, UN Special Rapporteur Ben Emerson said after a visit to Saudi Arabia this year. I'm glad The Guardian pointed out the Shia division there, the division between Shia and Sunni. So, although to take this opportunity to point this out, this is something that I've been investigating a lot recently, trying to understand the Yemen war. And this is how I understand the war in Yemen. Are you ready? The people in power in Yemen at the moment are Shia Muslims. The people in power in Saudi Arabia at the moment are Sunni Muslims. Sunni Muslims give way to Salafists and Wahhabi terrorism. They're the extreme end of the Muslim scale. They're the authoritarian dictatorship end of the Muslim scale. And at the other end, you've got Shia Muslims who, as far as I can tell, want democratically elected leaders and to take control of their nation's resources. And that's why Saudi Arabia are bombing the crap out of Yemen with the support of the United Kingdom and the United States. So much for Bush's "we need to plant a seed of democracy in the Middle East." Eh? So much for that. So that's the situation over there at the moment. They are going to behead a human rights activist by the look of it, unless people step in. And Our government are not going to do that, and neither is the American government. Billions of arms sales rest upon it. So that's not going to happen. But it doesn't mean that we can't shout and scream about it. Like I say, I have seen reports that this woman has already been executed. I don't know whether they are true or not. Well, if they aren't true and she's about to go on trial, then if it hasn't already happened, it probably will do soon by the look of it. But hey, women can drive in Saudi Arabia now. So that's progress. If you like this video and you want to hear more, please click subscribe and click the bell down there as well so you get a notification of when I drop further videos. Otherwise, YouTube will hide it from you, any future videos. They have admitted that they do that. We are facing an absolute onslaught, a barrage from both the corporate media and corporations who are trying to silence our voices. They're trying to stop us from bringing you the truth and cutting through the partisan BS that you get in the mainstream media. They don't like it. We're their competition. So if you can support channels like mine, please do so. Please share the videos wherever you can. Talk to your friends and family and spread the word about what we're doing. If you can support us on Patreon, please do so as well. The link is down there. You can support me for as little as $1 a month, and every bit helps. We cannot do this without your support. Thanks very much for your support. Until next time, peace and take care.